later. In 1897 is when we first put lights in the cave, and this is how those lights would have been powered. They'd have had a fire going down here, and once the water in the tank was hot enough to produce some steam, it would give us enough power to have lights in the cave for the day. The area that we're in right here is known as the Ozarks. The Ozarks is a little bit of Missouri, a little bit of Arkansas, a little bit of Oklahoma and Kansas. There are over 10,000 caves in the Ozark region. Missouri State alone has 7,000 caves. It's going to be a nice 60 degrees down there. If you guys are all ready, we'll go ahead and go take a look.
Okay, Kim and Bria, look at me. Look, well, they say if everybody did it, it change the whole, I'm sure. The dynamics of it, but... Stalactites, right?
Because they grow down.
Go by an underground river. As the water flowed through here, it was slightly acidic and it eroded away at the limestone rock. And it ended up leaving behind these big, beautiful rooms that we're driving through. We still get a little bit of water. Anytime it rains or snows outside, water will slowly work its way down through the soil and through the limestone. When it drifts from the ceiling, it leaves behind a mineral called calcite. Calcite's what the formation.
Look at that weird swirly thing there. Where? In that first cavern on the left, it kind of hangs on the bottom, but it kind of goes like a ribbon. Whoa, that's not man-made. Royal.
I think this one was.
So in 1941, there was a man that lived 90 feet above us here. He had a house up there, and he wanted to drill a water well.
Is that bad?
Yeah. Well, he knew that the cave was here, and he didn't want to drill through the cave by accident, so he came down and he did a few calculations. As you can see, his calculations were just a little off. It was about another 50 feet down, and they were able to get water out of this well for until 20 years ago. But the really cool thing about this right now isn't the well, but where it first comes into the cave. And I'm going to shine my light so you can see it better. But there are some little tiny formations that are growing up there. Those formations are the start of cave drapery. They started forming when that pipe was first put in, so that's about 74 years of growth right there. So if you look at that, you think it took 74 years for that to grow?
74 years for those little things to grow.
Then you look over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look how bats came.
Whoa, that's a nugget.
Look at that one. That one looks like a big egg.
That's a nugget. It's illegal to
Yeah.
take anything. It is?
In the state of Missouri, yeah.
Wanna take a breath?
But you're more than welcome to keep the drips of water that fall on you. They're free souvenirs.
That one looks like an owl egg.
Yeah, you can see all kinds of things. So this cave was first discovered in 1862. It was discovered by a man named John Knox. He owned the property that the cave was on, and he was out hunting with his dog one day, and his dog chased a little animal into a hole that was in the side of the bluff. Well, that was right around the beginning of the Civil War, so he was neutral to the war, and he was afraid they would confiscate the cave and use it for war purposes, so he hid the entrance and didn't tell anybody that it was here. In 1867 is when he decided maybe somebody should come down here and find out what's down here. So he put an ad out in the Springfield paper for an explorer. He got one response to his ad. It was 12 women that were members of a local athletic club that responded. That was towards the end of the war, and at that time women were stepping out and doing things that they normally didn't do. So we're going to take a look and see how those women might have saw it down here, but first I'm going to show you how dark a cave can get. If I can have everybody turn off any lights that you have on your cameras or phones real quick.
Look. Carson, you want to come over and look?
Hey, give me my phone, bub. Thank you. Now you can leave one.
Come here. Switch over and let Carson look. Sit down.
Fantastic Caverns is a two-tier cave, and all that really means is we have an upstairs and a downstairs part to us. If you was to go through that little hole right there, you would So this is also part of this 3 miles of passageways. This looks like a riverbed. It actually is a riverbed. It's just dry right now. But we do have water that'll flow through here many times throughout the spring and summer months. When the water comes into the cave, it's coming in through a sinkhole that's about 3 miles here around the Springfield airport. And it exits the cave at a place called Indian Springs, which is just right below the visitor center. In the Ozarks, we got to be real careful what we put into a sinkhole. Lots of times people like to dump stuff in there. But if any pollutants get dumped into a sinkhole, it'll end up down into this groundwater, which can end up in our drinking water. It can also really harm the cave life down there. The reason the cave fish is endangered is it's very sensitive to pollution. So if that type of fish gets in polluted water, it can really do a lot of harm or even kill the fish. It could, yeah.
Ma'am,
Uh-huh.
we saw 2, maybe 3.
Она другая, совсем другая. Там пешочками мы тоже прошли ее, но они ее сделали единственная северная миля, которая из 4 имеет где транспорт. Да.
So after those 12 women came down here and went through the cave, they were real excited about what they saw. And they went back to Springfield and started telling people about it. Well, people were curious and they started showing up out at John Knox's house. Well, John Knox saw an opportunity and he started doing tours in the cave. His tours were a little different than we do them today. People would come and knock on his door and they'd give him a little bit of money. He would give them a candle and tell them to have a good day. So it's kind of self-guided tours. And he did those all the way up until the end of the 1800s. At that time, he started getting older. He sold their property in the cave. And the man that purchased the property at that time renamed the cave Percy's Cave. And that was in honor of his son that had passed away. He had the cave in 1919. It was during the Prohibition time. So he decided to have what they called speakeasies down here. Speakeasies were illegal gambling and drinking taverns during Prohibition. He thought a cave would be a great place to do that. So he did those until 1924. In 1924, there were two brothers down here. One got upset with the other one and shot and killed him. The local sheriff, who had been turning a blind eye at that point, decided maybe they should go ahead and shut the cave down. So that was the end of the speakeasy. And the man sold the property at that time. And the guy that purchased the property next was a member, well, he is actually the local leader of the Ku Klux Klan. They had their meetings down here for about 13 years. And at that time, interest in the Klan started to wane out. People just weren't interested in it anymore. So their family kept the cave, but they weren't using it for anything. He passed away at some point, and his wife, his widow, opened cave up for tourism in the 40s. She wasn't very successful at it. It was not too long after the Great Depression, and people still weren't really getting out at that time. So in the 50s, she tried again, and it was a little bit more successful at that time. At some point in the late 50s, the cave was sold again. The man that purchased the cave at that time got the idea to do the Jeep tours down here. During the 60s and 70s, it was kind of a fun time in the cave. They would do the Jeep tours during the day, and on the weekends, they would have a radio program aired out of here called Farmer-Rama. It was a very popular country and western program back then. A lot of big name people from that time sung down here, such as Ray Price, Buck Owens, Bobby Bear, Bobby Lewis. Those are all some of the people that were down here. This is the original rock from the stage that they used during the Farmer-Rama. If you've ever been to Branson and saw or heard of the Presleys got their start singing down here. They were part of the Farmer-Rama cast. They came back a couple of years ago and did a benefit concert down here for the Ronald McDonald House. So it was the first time their family had came back since the 70s to sing. So it's kind of fun they did that. When they had the concerts down here in the 60s and 70s, they would get anywhere from 400 to 600 people down here. So they could fit a lot of people in this room. It's really cool. As far as we know, the 12 women were the first ones to come into the cave. There is evidence that Indians lived in this area down around the river, but we've never found any evidence that anyone was in the cave before those 12 women. So we don't know if they just didn't know the cave was here, or maybe they just didn't want to use the cave for some reason. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions here?
Did they start?
I was a little nervous too. I know.
Yes, it's too close.
Because I thought, we could have gone to Branson, bought your tickets to Silver City, and only gone to the cave. That's all it was. So when you get the ticket to Silver City, you get free entry. Oh, yeah, our cave's part of it. But it's all walking. And a lot of stairs, up and down, upstairs, down. Obviously down first. But you did awesome. So I'm glad to see these work. Yeah, I thought we're done. It was like, wow. I'm glad we're done. I was a little panicked. I was ready to get off. Discuss. No.
It was done in 1912. Yeah. You did. So this room right here is known as a breakdown room because of all the rocks right here. These rocks all used to be part of the ceiling in this room at one time. The ceilings collapsed a few times in here. What caused that to happen is when the water was flowing through here a long time ago in the form of a river, it was all the way up to the ceiling. It would get into the cracks and crevices and start eroding at it. Eventually it weakened the ceiling, and then once the water level started dropping in here, there was nothing there to support that weight anymore, and it would just cause it to collapse. We're not in any danger of that happening anymore because we don't have the water flowing through here to do that damage. A lot of people, though, will look at this and they think of an earthquake. Well, Missouri did have a really large earthquake in 1811. It was so powerful and strong that it caused the Mississippi River to flow backwards for several days.
Wow.
So when they started bringing people down here in the 1900s, one of their main concerns was that maybe that earthquake had done some structural damage. There's one of your chicken nuggets.
Right there.
We do ask that you not touch the formations as well. Thank you. So when they hired some experts to come down here and go through the cave just to make sure that everything was okay and there hadn't been structural damage done. So what they determined was this collapse was done a very long
Those have a name because those are going to
I'm not sure where you're putting that. And you mean for this?
I think it's because
Очень красиво.
Yeah.
it's because everything kind of fell and off.
Yeah.
Sideways.
Yeah. Yeah. He's flying around in here.
I'm taking it back. Okay. Go ahead.
Whoa!
Yeah.
кажется, всего.
Посмотрите, посмотрите.
Twin Giants.
Ой, какое чудо.
Вот эти Twin Giants, это, конечно... Ой-ой-ой, какое чудо. Лена, какая красота. Как они могли увидеть всей этой красоты, те женщины-исследователи?
А вот там-то, Галя, вот
Так
там.
я вижу там тоже.
Thank you.
Вот очень хочу.
Did you get it, Gina? I did. Did you get what you wanted? No. You didn't? Oh. Oh, the light's back there. Sit by me.
Покажи, как.
Okay, good. Okay, now you can go first.
Oh, I just you little chicken nugget. And like the bunny version.
Okay, sit down, sit down.
Фотографируйте, я тебя на фоне гиганта. Давай, давай, на фоне гиганта. Получилось, Лена? Не знаю, насколько хорошо. Ну, хоть так.
So fuzzy. Look at his little bitty ears. Oh, he's so cute. He's so cute and fuzzy. Nice.
Give me your, make me nervous.
And a cute little fuzzy.
Смотри, вот прямо капает.
One would fall back.
Вот это очень хорошая вода.
Little fuzzy. Oh, hello, ceiling.
Да, вот она подсветка. Видите, какая. А вот там у нас красота, мы видим.
Hey, you three come together and duck. Oh,
Ой-ой-ой.
Carson, down.
Hello, Mr. Ceiling.
Да над головой только вот прямо сразу у нас зависает.
Oh, that one row.
Какая красота, боже мой,
Да
должен
смотри, я смотрю.
Those look like drones. Let's try it. Oh, there's one. Oh, there is another
Hey, little buddy, watch your head.
A mama nugget.
Watch your head.
A mama nugget. Did you see him? The mama nugget? A mama nugget? Yeah, she's bigger. Mama nugget. I didn't see her. Well, silly, and I was trying to. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you get a picture of the mama nugget, baby?
I did not.
Okay.
We're stuck. Can we stand up? Can we stand here? Carson, you want to look back here?
Нам еще тут не надо. Я все не час прошу, Лена.
Which little hole?
Here is the real hole, yeah.
You see it? You see where she's showing it? Mm-hmm. Flashing? That's where they
what
first found the entrance to the cave, that little big hole. And they
So we don't have pictures of those 12 women, but we do have pictures of our latest 6 women.
Да, у нас же есть фотографии потом.
This camera.